seems absurd. 'Cause when he goes alone. Just he and his feet, no partner, no clone. When the music starts, that rock and roll beat, the cool nerd knows when to start the heat. He's got his world on that dance floor, and the movement that's cool, never a bore. His dress is plain, white shirt, high leg pants, nothing fashionable, not worth a flirt. His hair is greasy, no style to it, but forget the look, his dancing's a hit. A beautiful girl in a sexy suit sits at the bar, looking so cute. He notices her, she sees him too. She walks up to him, asks what you're gonna do. She says with a sexy pout, I wanna dance. He doesn't say a word, just gives a glance. She walks away and says, you're just a nerd. He keeps on dancing and doesn't say a word. Another fun evening for the cool nerd. Another fun evening for the cool nerd. For the cool nerd. For the cool nerd. For the cool nerd. For the cool nerd.
Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching this program, the Danny Schneider Show of Music. I'm Danny Schneider, of course, and you know, our program, the purpose of our program is for musicians, independent musicians, to get notice of their music and to get some notoriety and all. And I have a fantastic guest today who I've been actually a fan of for a year or so, since I've become aware of Derek. His name is Derek Sivers. Is that how you said it correctly? And he's from CDBaby, which you might have heard of. And he's a gold mine as far as how musicians can draw attention to themselves and music and all. And Derek, I know you were yourself a musician, and still are, of course. But why don't you tell us a couple of your experiences, just as a background. I know you were in a circus and you so many things, and the time is going to fly, but give us a tiny little background on yourself.
Sure thing. I've just been a musician since, you know, the age of whenever, 14, any of us start. But the interesting things are, I went to Berklee College of Music, and straight out of college moved to New York City and got a pretty sweet job at Warner Brothers. And it was interesting because as a musician, you're always told through books or even, you know, shows like yours that, well, hey, you can't just send out your demo unsolicited to the record companies. But I never realized until I was actually working inside Warner Brothers why that is. You know, that it's, once you're kind of inside the machine, you see what it's like, where the bins of mail show up, and you understand that all the people there working at a company like Warner Brothers are busy enough with the artists that are already signed, that the last thing they want is more work. You know, they're kind of, A&R guys are often overworked, underpaid, etc. And they're not out always looking for the new thing. They're just trying to deal with the thing that's already there. So, yeah, it was really interesting, and we can talk about that later if you want, but after about 3 years of working at Warner Brothers, I decided, hey, wait, I've gotten off track. The reason I moved to New York City was to be a musician. And so I saved up some money and quit my job at Warner Brothers, and I've been a full-time musician since 1992. So that was the last time I had a day job. But somewhere in there, so I was kind of doing the self-employed musician thing of anything to make a buck, and, you know, kind of playing on sessions here and doing gigs there and producing people's demos. And even touring with a circus was one of those things. I was the kind of ringleader, MC, and musician in a circus. And somewhere in there about 95 or 96, I had released my own CD and sold 1,500 copies around New York area at our shows. And I thought 1,500 was pretty good, and I was pretty proud of myself. And I called up the big online music stores at the time, which were, say, CD Now and Music Boulevard, and kind of the big online music stores, and went to all of them saying, you know, so I've got the CD, we've sold 1,500 copies, could I sell it on your site? And they all said, well, sure, who's your distributor? And I went, well, I don't have a distributor, and I don't really want one. We're just doing this direct. And they said, sorry, you know, without a distributor, we can't sell it. So I thought, well, that's kind of screwed up, and I made a few other calls, and they all said the same thing. I thought, well, screw it, I'm just going to set up my own site, get a credit card merchant account, sell the CD myself directly. But at the time, getting a credit card merchant account was so difficult. It was so much red tape and like $1,000 in fees. So I told my friends that were in bands in a similar position that had their own CD out, that, hey, if you want, I'll sell your CD. You'll
include them with you too.
Yeah, and so, but it was just meant to be a hobby, because remember, I was like still making my full-time living touring and doing sessions and whatnot. So I didn't mean for it to be a business, but then those 5 friends of mine that were also on my site kind of told their friends, hey man, my friend Derek will sell your CD for you. And so
it just built from there.
Then it was like 20 artists. Then I was like, okay, I better give this thing its own name. And so I called it CDBaby, and now it's the, so that was 5 years ago, and now we're the 2nd largest seller of independent CDs on the web.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, and you have a lot of excellent ideas too on how just an artist can, you know, get themselves out there, because, you know, many artists like myself, we've made a CD, and then even if you get it on online or even in consignment in a store or wherever, they often will just sit there unless you somehow get the word out. And so I've found that just being in a store, online, or even playing, you know, I like your ideas here, and that's what I'd like to explore with you on how we get the notoriety going. How do you get people to notice that you even have a CD? And I was just blown away by some of your things, how to call attention to music. You said, call the destination and ask for directions. What's the thought behind that?
Okay. Call the destination and ask for directions is just kind of a soundbite way of saying, if there's something that you want, say you want to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, a lot of people don't know where to start. They think, gosh, it would be nice to be on the cover of Rolling Stone and Spin, and then they sit in their home and they watch TV and wonder what they should do. But instead, my theory is to work backwards from where you want to be. So instead of trying to take a step out your front door and wonder where to step next, instead call the destination, meaning
call Rolling Stone magazine,
Rolling Stone and Spin, and ask them how to get there. And it's easier than you think. In the case of like a magazine, you can look in the little masthead. I think it's usually on page 3 in the fine print, and you can find out the phone number of the magazine. You call up, and a nice little trick is to just when you get the main operator, you kind of say, she'll say Rolling Stone, and you say editorial, please.
Editorial, please.
And they patch you right through because that's what the impatient publicists usually say, I guess.
Oh.
And so next thing you know, you're on the phone with somebody in editorial at the magazine you want to be in. And you just ask them, and here's the key. You ask them, can you tell me what are 3 of your favorite publicists that you're working with these days? You could make up a white lie if you want. You can say, calling from a record label, we're looking for a new publicist. I'm not calling you to promote myself, we're just wondering if you can recommend a good publicist. And they'll tell you, sure, yeah, okay, we like, they'll name a couple publicists.
And those are the ones that already have
getting in the
steam.
door already. So yeah, so now you know, okay, these publicists are getting in the door at Rolling Stone. How do I get to these publicists? Same thing with radio, that say you had a list of 10 radio stations that you really thought your music was well suited for. You can call up the radio stations, somehow get say a program director or manager on the phone and say, not calling to promote myself, could you just tell me, we're looking to hire a new radio promoter, can you tell me who a few of your favorite promoters are? And the radio station will tell you, oh sure, we like Brian Farish, we like this guy, we like, and they'll tell you which ones they like, and therefore you know that those are the ones that are getting in the door. So if you just get your music to those people that are getting into the radio stations, you've now found a way to kind of work backwards from where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I find this applies to so many things.
You mentioned, I remember reading about clubs too, or venues.
Yeah, call up a venue and say, what would it take to play your venue? You can really just call the places you want to be and ask them how to get there, and they'll usually tell you. It's a lot better than just wondering what to do next.
Good. That's excellent. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to skip around and pick your brain on different things. Another hint that you had that I remember was you said, don't forget to put your fans to work. Often I'm thinking, no, these people, it's bad enough. I asked them to come to the gig, you know what I mean, and they have to park and pay $5 a beer, and let alone put them to work. But I like to go ahead.
Okay. The theory of putting your fans to work. It's the idea is that you got to remember that. You don't have to always be so humble in the sense that, remember that sometimes if you're putting on a show, a lot of people out there are kind of stuck with day jobs they hate, and their life, they consider their life pretty boring, and when they come out to see you on a Thursday night, it's kind of a big event for them, and they sit right there and they watch you play and listen to your lyrics and feel connected to you, and especially those ones that you find that are kind of in the front row at more than one show and perhaps even mouthing the words to your lyrics. Those are the ones that would probably be thrilled if you asked them, hey, I could really use some help announcing the next gig or promoting or doing some internet promotion, for example. Are you good on the net? Do you have a high-speed connection? Could you help us out with this? And often I think that I found from experience that they're thrilled to help out. They're like, me? You want me to help promote you? Of course I'd love to. That would be great. And they become your biggest, I guess the formalized way of doing this, calling it a street team, where you do that on a mass scale and actually have things set up to work with a street team to put your fans to work telling their friends about you. But yeah, it really works, and it's just, you just got to get over the mental hurdle and just,
and ask them.
Get the guts to call up and ask them, yeah.
I know when I saw you at the, as part of a panel at the Derby not too long ago, the Do Your Own Thing seminars, I remember, and I was in the front row, and I remember somebody said, well, what's the difference between somebody that gets 1,000 people at the gig or sells 1,000 CDs and somebody who sells 10 or something? He said, you said they ask.
Yeah, yeah.
That word ask. They ask for if you want to buy the CD, or like you said, they have a big page and on the bottom it just says, well, click here if you want to buy the CD,
Oh, that, okay, now I get what you mean. Yeah, it's, that has a lot to do with web design and with how you're going to communicate with people, that instead of just saying putting out your name, some people think, hey, just got to get our name out there. There's more to it than that. You got to get your name out there, but then you got to tell people what to do.
You got to tell them what to buy this.
Here's my name, go do this. Here's my name, go do this.
Yeah.
Instead of just here's my name, here's my name.
That goes back to that humble thing you're talking about a little bit. You think that people wouldn't know, but so even calling up the people working backwards is asking.
Yeah, going ahead and ask for what you want. In your marketing, tell people to buy the CD. It works.
And I know one other thing that I'm going to start doing here pretty soon is putting the photos from my gigs, take pictures from the stage and put the photos in the website. That was a good idea.
Yeah, I actually caught that from another band that was doing really well. I went to go look at their site, and what they had done is, okay, check this out. Every time they do a show, they bring a digital camera up on stage, and at some point in the middle of the show when the crowd's the biggest, they say, okay, everybody, hold your beers in the air, and they take pictures of the audience. And that's the moment where they pass around, after they get some pictures of the audience, they pass around their email list around the crowd, say, okay, everybody, your photo's going to be on our website in a couple days, and if you want us to email to tell you about it, to see how stupid you look tonight, or how gorgeous you look tonight, make sure you get down your email address in our book here, and we'll email you as soon as it's up. And then the next day after the show, they just upload the photos to the site, and then they add all those people to their email list and say, go to this web address, go to yourbandname.com/show date or something, and you'll
Because people are more interested, of course,
Yep.
in...
People are always more interested in themselves than they are in you.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that sounds good. And I like the little trick, too, is pass around your sign-up list after you've taken the pictures.
Yep. Because now they have a reason to want to sign up instead of just, hey, will you sign my list?
Yeah, and I get more junk mail. Oh, great, I'm going to get more junk mail now. But if you're taking pictures, and I like it, yeah. And also, you talked about the people that you're... I liked your idea about what do I respond to? How do I like to be written to? How do I like to be approached and consider the people like a friend instead of just corporate speak? Yeah,
the big idea behind that is that a lot of people they think of marketing as some like big thing that they don't understand. But the truth is just anytime you've ever been affected by anything, that was marketing. Anytime you were flipping through a Spin magazine and something caught your eye and you read about it, that was kind of marketing or publicity in action. Anytime you stopped on an advertisement or something like that. So the key is to, the best systematic way to do this is to go get one of those magazines that's writing about a whole bunch of music that you've never heard of before. Music Connection here in LA, CMJ, Music Monthly.
That's a college music journal?
Yep, college music journal. I think they just call it CMJ. It's around there, or just go down to go down to a Barnes and Noble and just go to the magazine racks and look at the music mags. But the point is to skip over the Rolling Stone. Except actually, wait, there's a really good one out right now. The Rolling Stone that has Eminem on the cover has something like the 10 hot new acts to watch for 2003. Anytime you see some of those like hot new acts to watch, pick that up and flip through, and then see the way that they introduce these people, because it's very different than the way that they'll be introducing Eminem, which everybody knows who Eminem is. But watch when they take somebody who is a complete unknown and introduce it to you, and see how they do it. And even the way that they write the bio, say starting with a catchy hook, saying it's Rick Ocasek's little brother happened to run into Liv Tyler at a party, and that's how this band got started. And then you realize, you look at their methods that they use to get your attention, and think of ways that you can use those same methods in your own marketing to reach the public.
Excellent. That's very, very good. I like that. I'm stopping at Barnes & Noble on the way home. Filters. Go to where don't avoid those filters. Filters being the gatekeepers. Is that what you're kind of, another word for a filter?
Yeah. Filters, I think of that as, I'll tell my story of how I came across that is when I did that thing of calling the radio stations and saying, who are your favorite promoters? I got a list of about 9 promoters that they recommended, and I saw that 3 of them came up more than once. So I went straight to those 3 and got on my CD and really kind of tried to woo them and get them into my music. And one of the 3 seemed to really go for it, and luckily it was one that mostly worked for the majors, but every now and then would take on an independent project that they felt was really strong. And so all of a sudden I was in, and they had taken on my CD and were going to promote it to radio. And by being on their roster, all of a sudden all these doors would open saying, oh, you're working with the syndicate. Okay, well, sure, yeah, bring it on. It kind of put you into a more elite crowd, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden I noticed that happened a few times, that I was, say, friends with the guy that did the booking at such and got myself booked even on a Monday night at 1 a.m. but at a pretty well-known club. And then just being able to say that I had played at this club put you into a more elite crowd. And especially as the world is kind of post-1995 internet bombarded with 40,000 artist names coming at them, they need to know which ones have gotten through the gate, like which ones doesn't have to be a major label anymore, but which ones are working with, really reputable companies or
agents
playing at the reputable venues. Get yourself in through those filters. And you'll be in a much, you find these doors open to you.
Yeah, and use your technique of calling where you want to go and finding out the ones to go. Then you said the 3 kept repeating more and more, Those are
Yeah.
the ones you definitely gravitated to.
Yeah.
And you talked about extreme actions, bring extreme results, and also be an extreme version of yourself.
Okay. Yeah, two different things. The extreme actions came from a Grammy-winning producer friend of mine that was kind of like a mentor back in New York, and that was one of his sayings. He said, you know, you don't get extreme riches, extreme fame, or extreme talent without extreme actions. And he said, the rest of his quote was, be less leisurely, do everything all at once. And he said, you can't just live a normal life, wake up, watch TV, hang out, chill out, and expect amazing things to happen. He said, you've got to be like an Olympic gymnast or something. You've got to train, you've got to work your ass off. And so anyway, that was the extreme, but the idea of being an extreme version of yourself is, that's actually a totally separate subject. Often when people are putting their image out there for their music, they feel, you know, that they're communicating who they are, and who they are is pretty much a regular person. I don't know, I'm like anybody else here. I'm just a regular guy, and playing regular songs about regular things, and well, hey, check it out.
Regular bar.
Yeah, I'm playing down at a regular bar next regular day. But you find that the people that have made a most successful public image of themselves took one aspect of their personality and kind of cranked up the volume on it in a way that takes somebody like, what's an example? It's just, for some reason, Cyndi Lauper is coming to mind. I know it's like 15 years old now, example, but...
I just found another commercial though recently.
What? Really?
I found a commercial recently, I think Dr. Pepper.
Oh, how cool.
Anyway, sorry to
Actually, you know what she
interrupt
came up is because they just did they're doing, SoundScan is now tracking downloaded sales like through Apple iTunes and stuff. Cyndi Lauper, her song Time After Time was at number 15. Now, in 2003, she's the number 15 most downloaded song ever, and she was the only one on the list of the top 50 that wasn't from this decade or something.
Wow.
Anyway, that's why she came to mind. The point we were making is that her personality, if you remember from like her 80s thing, was this, you know, girls just want to have fun, the red hair, the checkers, the multicolor eyeshadow, and of course she was probably much more of a well-rounded person than that, but you've just got to take this one aspect of your personality and put it out there, and don't be afraid to just pigeonhole yourself into one little thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes, you know, to be a knife to cut through the noise. You can't just use a dull kind of, you know, pull to kind of get attention to yourself. You got to sharpen your image like a knife and be that one caricature of something to kind of cut through the noise.
Yeah, good. Like I've seen you use that term niche before.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
kind of, that's where you're talking about find your niche.
Yeah, it's all about that. That you've got to just pick something and say, I am this, and don't be afraid to go ahead and pigeonhole yourself into one little thing to get known as that, and then you can spread out from there. Instead of trying to come out to the world saying, oh, I'm everything. Oh, we play all kinds of music. Oh, you know, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Just check it out. You know, you have to be able to say, no, we are island boogie dance music that kick off your sandals and put your feet in the sand, party time, you know, whatever your niche is going to be that, and then let people discover that you have more to you than that.
I see, very good. Because it is hard. Sometimes people say, you know, well, Dan, what kind of music is it? And I go, it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard. But you've emphasized just you must get that one catchy phrase and put it on your bumper, license plate, put it on your everything, but you have to do it because people don't know.
Yeah. In my case with my band, we would just say, people would say, what kind of music is it? And we'd say a cross between James Brown and the Beatles. And of course there was more to us than that. But it was just a curious enough phrase. People would go, James Brown and the Beatles? When are you playing? I got to hear this. You know, do you have a copy with you? And that's your goal. You want to find, even if it takes you, you know, a case of beer and some friends to do it, find a catchy phrase that it doesn't have to be all-encompassing, but just something that's good enough to make people, you know, lift an eyebrow and get interested in you. And then once you've got a catchy phrase that seems to work, and it's worked on more than 10 people and people seem to like it, just use it for 10 years. People don't get bored of it. You know, you might get bored of it, but the rest of the world won't. Just use that catchy phrase that describes your music over and over again, and you'll find that if you use it enough, then other people start repeating it to each other. You've kind of
Wow.
controlled their minds now, you know. It's
Woo.
like, you know, if you say it enough, then other people, when they're telling somebody else about you, say, you should check them out. It's kind of a cross between James Brown and the Beatles.
Yeah.
And then you see that, you know, when you get a review in a magazine, it says, you know, the headline of the review will say, a cross between James Brown and the Beatles?
Wow.
Question mark.
Question
and, you know,
mark.
they start to use your phrase if you feed them a good one.
Yeah, and you had even mentioned about even if you're a little vague, because I always thought, oh, you should pinpoint it, make it clear, but vagueness sometimes it makes it more intriguing.
Did I say that?
Somewhere.
I might take it back.
Pinpoint it more.
I think it's better to pinpoint it now. I think, and also to not be afraid to compare it to other artists. To say we're a cross between this and that, instead of saying, I don't know, it's kind of alt-rock country. If you say alt-rock country, it just kind of, you know, it's just three generic words that people don't notice anymore. But if you say it's in the vein of, and give them a couple specific examples,
Yeah.
that gives people's mind something to latch onto.
I was looking through my notes here real quick, but believe it or not, they kind of gave me the signal. We have like about 1 minute or so left, believe it or not. And so I wanted to make sure, I wanted to ask you about, you said if the idea of doing this kind of thing feels like an energy drain to you, you should what?
Yeah, I'm so glad you finished with that. My biggest statement I try to always close with is that if something's draining your energy, don't do it. That even if you read a book on the music business and it's telling you, you should do this, 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 if you're reading this and your shoulders are drooping and you're going, God, you know,
Oh my
I'm just
God.
not interested in this. I just want to be a drummer. I just wanted to be a great drummer.
A lot of people say that too.
Yeah, then don't do it. Spend your energy being a great drummer. Because anything that doesn't interest you, there is somebody else out there who's passionate about that. There are people that are passionate about promoting gigs and people that are passionate about web design and things that may bore you. So instead, use your time to find somebody who's interested in those things that bore you, and then don't spend any energy doing those things. Just do what you like to do best.
Perfect way to end. Derek, thank you so much
Thanks.
for coming and sharing all your wealth and knowledge.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
He chooses to rock dance, almost seems absurd. 'Cause when he goes alone, just he and the feet, no partner, no clone. When the music starts, that rock and roll beat, the cool nerd knows when to start the heat. He's got his world on that dance floor, and the movement that's cool, never a bore. His dress is